Yes, good morning, San Diego. Got a great show lined up for you. Thank you for joining me. First, we're bringing on the economist, Alan Nevin, who is just a seasoned professional when it comes to what's happening in our marketplace, also the author of The Great Divide. We got Stephanie Myers, who is the Apprentice. She was on The Apprentice recently, and she is a big-time Trump supporter. We'll see what she has to say here in a bit. And the real estate guru, Kurt Wanabo, joins us in studio, telling us what happened so far this year in real estate and what we should expect going into next year. Got a great show lined up. My goal is to educate, empower, and engage. Let's get the show started. Every single day, you are consumed with information. With the 24/7 negative news cycle and a pop culture that's polluting the airways, all selling out for the ratings game. Well, guess what? There's a more positive way to look at life. You live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. Every day with our elite network of professionals, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage. And now it's time to fight for your American dream. Welcome, everybody, to the American Dream. I'm your host, Craig Soin. Good to have you here again. Hopefully you've been catching our radio show. There's been a lot of really hot topics right now, politically speaking, economically speaking, and of course, all as it pertains to helping you achieve your American dream, which I think is really being challenged right now, and that's going to lead to our word on the American dream here today. So there was an attack again, 50 people dead in Florida, the LGBT community. I think it's interesting that we will identify the community where people died, but not the killers who murdered them. And I was concerned about all the deaths. I'm more concerned about our reaction to it, whether the reaction is on the mainstream media, which predicates their money off of ratings and dividing us, or if it's some of the nonsense you see in social media. I feel that as a country, we've lost our ability to be empathetic for the discussion topics at hand, the things that we're arguing about. It seems like there's a middle ground that could make a lot more sense, and when you're fighting a war on terror, it'd be a lot easier to come together if you found that middle ground. Empathetic does not mean sympathetic. Empathetic means that you understand someone else's point of view. I believe in the Second Amendment. But certainly, I have no problem looking at the fact that this terrorist got his hands on these types of guns, and how can we keep those hands off those guns. But I'm not going to blame the gun on a mass murder. God help us when that terrorist or a terrorist like him gets their hands on chemical weapons or a bomb that you can make for $200 out of Home Depot with Google. It's really not that complicated. So we're questioning guns. We're misdirecting our anger. But in the same breath, as someone who supports the Second Amendment, I can be empathetic to the reasoning and the rationality of wanting to make sure that we don't allow guns into those people's hands. I can be empathetic to the fact that people are angry with a religion specifically. Now, not all peaceful Muslims are this type of people. We know that. We don't have to be fearful of upsetting the peaceful Muslims. In fact, if we're going to call out the radical strain of Islam, it would be easy to make the statement that, look, all you good Muslims, come to us. We should be marching in the streets. We should be protesting. We should be doing things at the scene of the crime. Look at how the gay community came together this past week after the shooting happened at the Pulse nightclub. Why is there not a community coming together, whether you're Muslim or not, to support the good cause that Islam should be representing by over 1 billion of peace-loving Muslims that exist? So my challenge is this: when you're not willing to identify the enemy, many are making the argument that it's a waste of time, it doesn't help our cause. President Obama said those exact words. That's wrong. If you're in a war, you identify your enemy. If you're a leader, you have to rally the people that you are leading, whether it's the citizens of the United States or our allies across the world. If you do not clearly define who your war is against, you're leaving things up to interpretation. We need to be declaring a war and attacking our enemy, and that is radical Islam, and that doesn't mean that I'm prejudiced. It just means that I'm rational. We need to be more empathetic. We need to look at all points of view, and it shouldn't be that hard for us to come together, and that, to me, is the most concerning part of all of this, and that's the word on the American dream. All right, I got a great show lined up for you. We're bringing in amazing guests. We got Alan Nevin. Alan Nevin has seen his fair share of cycles of the economy. He's 84 years old. He just spoke on stage at the Sales Mastery event with 2,500 business professionals that I led. He got the biggest raving reviews of everyone. We have a all-star lineup as well. Who else do we have? We have Stephanie Myers is coming in here, who is a Trump supporter, was on The Apprentice. We recently did a live radio show with her. And we got Kurt Wanabo, who is crushing the real estate market. At one point was the #1 realtor in San Diego, continues to win awards. All joining us on the American Dream, coming up next. All right, now joining us in studio, he just spoke on stage at our big real estate event 2 weeks ago. We had 2,500 realtors of the marketplace. He got the most raving reviews of anybody who spoke on stage. He's recently written a book, The Great Divide, which I know is doing really well. Alan Nevin joins us in studio. Good to have you here, Alan.
Thank you, here, sir.
So we learned a lot from you a couple of weeks ago, and I had to get you on the show to share with our audience. I think we were all very pleased that you seem to be positive and relatively bullish about our economy, certainly here in California. So
yes,
you tell us.
Well, I mean, the real answer is that if you live on the West Coast, you have to be positive, because the economies from here all the way up through Seattle are really on fire. They're doing amazingly well, mainly because of high-paying jobs in the social science, social media, the electronics, biotech, biomed, the Googles of the world and the Amazons, and they pay very well, and they're just expanding amazingly well, and that is causing San Diego as well to do extremely well. We're adding like 30,000 jobs a year, which is really pretty good, considering the fact that construction is down so much.
Yeah, it's interesting because we also, I know that the population, I think from what I saw recently in the Union Tribune, is, you're mentioning jobs, but I feel like the population has decreased a little bit in San Diego, maybe because of the cost of living, maybe because of taxes, right? Do you feel like we would be growing even more if we didn't have such high taxes? I mean, because Toyota moved jobs to Texas. We see jobs getting moved to Nevada. Yeah. You're in the highest tax bracket, you're 35%, 13% state tax plus sales tax. Does that stuff play in? Do you think that
No, if you look around the United States and you look at the markets that have the great jobs, they're all very expensive. I mean, New York, Boston, Chicago, certainly Seattle, San Francisco. You can't help it. It's just the way it is.
Well, higher costs have to do with supply and demand. I'm glad we pay more to live here. That means you live in a pretty cool place as well. Talk to us about your book, The Great Divide.
Well, it's a book about where America is going the next 25 years. And basically it's saying you want to be in one of these 14 states that gets combined 75% of all the new jobs and will continue to.
Wow.
And of course, California takes the lead, and no one really even comes close in terms, because of our amazing ability to start up new industries and expand in the biotech, biomed, the Facebooks of the world. It's fairly remarkable. It basically is an explosion. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, Seattle is just doing an amazing thing. And frankly, Southern California, Los Angeles, Orange County, and San Diego are doing exceptionally well.
Well, San Diego has been a market that is slower to grow the way that San Francisco has, New York, LA, Chicago. So I almost feel like as a country, a city, the way we're developing is on a lot of the lessons that other cities have already grown through. I mean, we're building social scenes, parks, recreational, commercial. So downtown San Diego looks pretty amazing. I know the plans are, there's 19 cranes now. What do you think San Diego as a city looks like in 10 years, 20 years? I mean, is it going to look like it's San Francisco, or are we going to have a lot more high-rise, a lot more jobs, a lot more commerce?
Residentially, we're going to be doing fine. Right now, I have in my database 12,000 residential units that are going to be built downtown, and they will get built. And they're all somewhere between 8 and 30 stories high. And that is going to particularly change the composition of East Village, which is going to be a very thriving environment. The problem is we don't have enough jobs downtown, where San Francisco is just gone crazy. Salesforce.com just took down 800,000 square feet in one building in downtown San Francisco.
Wow.
It's just remarkable.
So the market as a whole, you're confident, you're bullish?
I'm very bullish. I only wish we had enough housing for everybody. We've got 40% of our millennials are still living with their parents.
Yep.
And that's a major departure from years past. And yet it seems to work. Eventually, they'll get married and get out on their own. But fortunately, they're not all trying to buy now because there's nothing to buy. And gradually,
The inventory is really low.
the inventory is terribly low. We should have a typically 6-month inventory, and we're down to 3. And days on market is really dropping.
Next to nothing.
Yeah.
You see these homes go on market, they get 10, 15 offers on them. It's incredible.
It really, especially in the lower price ranges, lower being, under $500,000.
Well, Alan, I hope people pick up your book, The Great Divide. I know it's a great book. We appreciate you speaking on stage in front of the San Diego real estate community, certainly sharing your story here with us on Channel 4 here today. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
It is my pleasure.
All right, coming up next, I have a new friend. Her name is Stephanie Myers. She came on a live radio show we did last week at Golden Hall during the election. She is full of energy. She's terrific. She's been on The Apprentice. She's a business leader. You're going to get a kick out of her coming up next on The American Dream.
My name is Mike Peters and my wife Cindy. We've been residents of Escondido for over 40 years, and we've been really happy with Baker Solar. Being a banker, I'm a numbers guy, and I looked at the numbers very seriously before I chose solar. Right now, my savings is about $3,000 a year. As the 20-year lease goes on, I'll be saving more, so I'm extremely happy with the system.
Lots of people watched the installation and a lot of questions, and I just have to tell them it's all worked out great. We're saving lots of money. It's paying off big time.
All right, now joining us in studio, she was on a live Craig Sewing radio show last week covering the election. She was on The Apprentice, and she is now here on The American Dream. Stephanie Myers, good to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us what you do now. I mean, the other day you were on the radio show. That was a lot of
Yes.
fun. So Golden Hall, live audience, and of course you're talking about all these opinionated things. You're a Trump supporter, which we'll get into. But I'm like, tell me about The Apprentice. I was like distracting from a
Yeah.
serious conversation. I want to hear about
That's
The
okay.
Apprentice, which must have been a really cool experience for you.
Yes, absolutely. So prior to making The Apprentice, I was in information technology. I worked for a Fortune 100 company, working with more commercial clients. Now I am still in information technology, working for a major corporation specializing in the military. So whether it's civilian or not, I do a lot of the information technology for the military.
Did you enjoy the experience?
Absolutely, I enjoy it. I still get a little nervous around him sometimes, but other than that, he's phenomenal. I like what he's doing. I'm going to support Mr. Trump always. Even though we are all human, he may say things that you and I would not say, but his values and what he wants to do and make America great again, I think is very good for our country.
Yeah, so I mean, you had a firsthand experience. Here you're hearing things like he doesn't like women. I imagine you disagree with that.
Yes.
When I look at Donald Trump, I try and position pretty neutrally on these shows. I certainly have my opinions, but earlier in the show, I was talking about the word empathy. The Donald Trump, I completely understand why people like him. The outsider shoots straight. We're sick and tired of politicians. I think the anger comes from politicians. I think it comes from the media. I think it comes from political correctness, not just in those scenes, but in our day-to-day lives, and he represents all that people are angry with. And I think everybody has a right to be angry. On the flip side, I think you're right. He also says some things that maybe he shouldn't. He's not well polished, but isn't that kind of the thing, right?
Absolutely.
The moment that guy starts curbing his language is the moment you start to look at him like another politician. So I think many people look at him as being perfect with his imperfections.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And the thing that we have to remember is Mr. Trump is not a politician.
Right.
He's a businessman. He's a billionaire for a reason. I think a lot of things, that reason why we all like Mr. Trump is he says things that everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
He does not have lobbyists on the Hill. He has no, corporations backing him, telling him what to do. He's funding his own campaign at this point in time, and he is not a politician, and people forget that. Last week when you and I did your radio show, he came out and gave a speech earlier that evening, and people judged him. Wait, that's not the Mr. Trump I know. Oh, he's changing his attitude and his thoughts. Well, as we can tell, everybody wants the real Mr. Trump, the real person who's brutally honest that wants to get us back on track.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know the speech you're referring to, and the question is so he won the general election,
Yeah.
the GOP primary, ran through 17 GOP candidates, which no one thought he had any type of chance of doing. And now he's going to be going up against Hillary Clinton. Do you think, from what you know of him on a personal level, that he will shift, try and be, certainly with the judge comment, it doesn't look like it, but do you think he'll try and shift, be more polished, or no?
Actually, Mr. Trump is Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
If I was Hillary Clinton, I'd be afraid.
She is. There's no doubt about it.
Especially because what we are facing is the fact that she is a criminal. She released classified information that should not have been released. If you had a government clearance, every year you get briefed that you are not allowed to do that. If you did it, you'd be in jail right now.
Yeah.
She did it, and she's not in jail. I believe Mr. Trump is now going to make sure that not only is she held accountable, but with the Clinton Foundation, they better be careful, because I wouldn't put it past them to release who the donors are to that foundation. So I think she should be scared, because quite honestly, she broke the law. She broke the law, and she put our country in harm's way. So regardless of what she has to say about him and her point on national security, well, she's the one that put our nation at risk and did. This is why Benghazi happened. When Mr. Trump was here in town at his rally, I got to sit with a wonderful woman by the name of Pam Smith. Her son was killed. Her son was Sean Smith. She actually lives here in San Diego. The night before,
Benghazi.
Yeah, the night before her son died, he called his mother and said, "Mom, I'm scared. I'm not going to survive. They know everything that we're doing out here." What is a mother? You can't call 911. The fact that Hillary has never apologized to Pam Smith, she's never been held accountable. I believe Mr. Trump is going to focus and shift and ensure that cybersecurity and our nation's protection is key.
I don't think anything better illustrates politics and phoniness than the Benghazi story. The what difference does it make line that somehow put her up on a pedestal, almost in a positive way. To me, it was one of the most atrocious things you could possibly say when you had that incident, 4 dead Americans that are there protecting our freedoms in harm's way. It makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's a pretty challenging moment in Hillary Clinton's career, and I think with her, you kind of know what you're going to get. And with Trump, I think people are willing to bet on the wild card. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fascinating election.
Absolutely.
I think we can all agree on that. Stephanie Meyer, so what's up with you? So what's next for you? How can we help you?
Taking a little break. I'm taking a little break, going to visit the family in Arizona. And then I live here, get back to work, and keep moving and shaking.
Good place to live, America's finest city. Well, it's good having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, coming up next, speaking of America's finest city, I'm going to show you how to own it. Kurt Wanabo, this guy has won every award in the book. He is one of the top realtors nationwide, and he's right here just crushing it in our marketplace. He joins us in studio next on The American Dream.
Hi, my name is Steve, and this is my wife Amy. We just had our solar panels installed by Baker Electric. Living out here in the East County, the temperatures can be in the mid-70s to over 100.
We didn't know a lot about solar. Speaking with our solar consultant, he was there to answer any of our questions that we had. He was always there when we needed him.
I think the fact that Baker does go in-house with their employees, everyone is very professional and very polite, and they're on budget. We couldn't have gone with a better company.
All right, now joining us in studio, this guy is dominating the real estate market. The one thing we've known about Kurt Wanabo, he seems to be 60 to 90 days, not just ahead of the media, but really everybody in the market. There's 20,000 real estate licenses. This is a guy you go to for information. Kurt, good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we're halfway through.
We are halfway through the year at this time.
Let's do some backwards thinking.
Yeah.
Right? So recap the first half of 2016.
Overall, the real estate market's been an interesting one. I'll say this, the same amount of homes last year came on the market this year. So we're not any different in the amount of homes that have actually come on the market.
Oh, in the first half?
Yeah, first half.
Okay,
Yep.
so we're same there.
Same there. Same in regards to the amount of sales that are actually occurring. No big change there. It's almost even Steven. What we are seeing, however, is an increase in average sales price, average median sales price, and also the volume that's being done. So that means prices have been going up.
Okay.
This year, definitely higher in regards to appreciation so far. We're starting to see appreciation, especially in the single-family homes, at 7-8%. You know, over the past 2 years, we've been around 5%, 6%. So it's been steadily increasing. Another thing that's much different is people keep talking about the inventory. The inventory is low, 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 and it actually is lower this time right now than it was this same time last year.
Why do you think that is?
Part of it is we had a huge, huge May month, meaning lots of properties.
This year?
Yeah, lots of properties. I had a huge May month. Almost every agent I've been talking to had a huge May month. May was a very big month for properties going into escrow.
Okay.
So we saw a tremendous, while the same amount of properties went on the market, same amount have been selling, a big chunk of them went into escrow during the month of May. So we're seeing a lot of activity that's occurring right now. This summer has probably been one of the best summers that I've seen in regards to activity right now. So with inventory lower, interest rates have even ticked down a little bit over the past several weeks. There's been a lot of activity. And I would tell you this, if you're on the market right now during this season, during this time of the year, if your property isn't receiving offers within 30 to 45 days, there's a reason why. Whether it be you're overpriced or doesn't show well, your agent,
That
whatever the
shouldn't be
case may be.
happening.
Yeah, we're seeing
What do you think
a lot
it usually
of
is?
activity.
Probably overpriced?
Depends.
For an agent that
there's a
doesn't know what they're
multitude of there's a multitude of variables.
Yep.
You know, price, how the property's marketed, how it's presented, the agent in and of itself. There's lots of variables, but overall, based on the activity that we're seeing in the past month or two, 6 weeks, you absolutely should be receiving offers.
What do you think over the next 6 months? Right, so that's a recap of the first half of the year, comparing it to last year. What do you think moving forward?
Well, one of the things I'm always coaching and training my team on is, little things that are happening that are definitely different in the marketplace. Okay?
Right. So the pulse of the market.
Pulse of the market, and a lot of that has to do with financing. I've been in here the past couple of months, and I've talked to you about different things I've seen in the lending space, such as people putting 10% down. I recently have closed deals with 5% down at the $1 million price point or over. I actually have clients right now who are pre-approved with a stated income loan, which I haven't seen. I haven't closed the deal on.
What lender is doing that? Can we disclose?
Yeah. Well, why? Because you want to find one or
I'm
know
just
of a resource?
curious. I mean, that's the program that. See, I believe that the stated income loan was the one that shouldn't have disappeared. Now I know people think you've heard it called the liar loan, people overstating their income. The reality is there's self-employed people that are most qualified people in the country to buy a home. They can put money down, they have good credit, but because of the way their taxes work or disconnected their income, they aren't able to. That's what the intent of stated income was.
Right.
But it moved to the pizza boy saying he made 20 grand a month and buying $1 million house, which just wasn't true.
People always ask me, why did the market crash? Well, it wasn't one thing, it was several, or it was multiple things. Lots and lots of dominoes had to line up to have what occurred. Now, where we're at right now is, every month goes by, I start to see these creative loans come back around. And right now, the stated income loan is for people who make a certain amount of money and have a very specific profession. It's very heavily underwritten, but with the amount of transactions that we have occurring and the affordability, one thing I didn't mention is that while the prices are increasing, the affordability index is going down, right? There's less affordability. They're going to have to reach out eventually to a broader base of buyers.
Right.
And the only way that they can potentially do that is, start to relaxing up, developing product. Now, does that mean that I think that there's going to be a huge real estate market crash inevitably in the next year or two? No. I do believe that inevitably real estate is cyclical. It does go up and down. There's no stopping that.
Yep.
But where we're at, we're probably not going to see a down market for probably at least 4, 5, 6, several years out. Part of that's because, one, there's been good lending practices for the past several years. Many people had to put 20% down, so there's a strong foundation there.
Yep.
But I am going to make a prediction here on the show, which is I think it's very realistic that for the first time in many years, we will see double-digit appreciation in this county. Even if
Wow, now I didn't expect you to say that.
Even if it's if what I'm seeing is happening right now continues on throughout this summer, it's very possible. For single family, I think we're already at almost 7% just for the year. And so whether it be just for a segment, whether it be single family or detached or attached homes, I think it's possible we see one of those segments reach double-digit appreciation. And if that happens and then happens consistently year after year, and we see the dominoes line up of all of these, interesting loans, pick your pay or whatever the case may be, or we see a political party come into president where they want to roll back Frank Dodd, you can definitely predict some laxing up in some of the lending guidelines, which would mean we could potentially reach the same scenario we did, but this would be several years out.
Well, here's the thing. You, of all people, have your fingers on the pulse of the market. The fact that you're trickling out this information, you're letting us know you're starting to see it, it doesn't mean it's going to go to the point where the pendulum has swung too far to one side and now you fog a mirror, you can get a loan. And that's the reality of what we saw many years ago. But as it starts to creep into the market, banks make their money by lending money. As you mentioned, affordability is down, so they're going to have to develop product for people to be able to buy homes.
That's true.
But when you start creating, before they were creating it, it was a money-making frenzy. It was a money-making frenzy on Wall Street and individual homeowners that were taking out 125% loans. I mean, absurd. But now there's that happy medium. You know what I mean? I feel like we're still there.
We're still there. There's a very happy medium. It's just, again, actually, it's happening a lot quicker than I expected. But to start seeing these types of loans come back so quickly over the course of just 6 months has been very, very interesting to me. Some people will ask me the question, do you think what happened before happen again? I don't know. Possibly. Some people will say, well, why would the banks ever allow that to happen again? Didn't the banks lose a lot of money? The answer to that is yes, there were some banks that failed and went under. However, there were others that were very smart throughout the entire process, and they made money on the way down just as they did up.
You can be a surfer and crash on that tidal wave, or you can ride it at the right time and cruise through it, right? So there's going to be banks that know how to navigate that market, and there's going to be banks that screw it up. But it is really, really important, and I guess here would be a great takeaway for the show. Kurt just came in here and gave you a good analysis of what has happened so far this year, a good idea of what he thinks will happen for the next 6, 12 months, even 5, 6, 7 years, I think he went out. Information is so important. Knowledge is power, and it's not something that sits still. We're always learning new things. The market's doing new things, and getting tailored advice as you navigate any marketplace, it's so important. Kurt's one of the best in the business, and of course, we appreciate having you on the show.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, when we come back, we wrap things up with the Sowing Says segment and a last message. So stick around. We'll be back right here in just a moment. All right, so the last thoughts of the show. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Often we will answer your questions, your emails on the Sowing Says segment, and we'll do all that stuff offline. Email me, comment on the show. You do that at craigsowing.com. I just want to take a moment to thank you for tuning into the show, not just today, but every day. We have a daily TV show, we're on radio, we're on social media, and I want to always remind you this is your show. My job as a host is to reflect back to you the real stories, the amazing stories of the American dream that were shared with us online, through social media, and through the professionals and experts you see on the show. But it's just so important you know that. It's your show. I appreciate you following us, being a part of it. Every single day we're here at 10:30 a.m. Channel 4. But also, if you want to engage in the conversation, we're very active on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Our links, craigsowing.com. Those widgets are there. You follow us there and help us grow the show. Thank you so much. Every day we are fighting for your American dream. We're out here today. Have a great one.